Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out British accents ranked from easiest to hardest. Free PDF and quiz.
Hello everyone and welcome back to English with Lucy. Today we are going to be talking about the big topic of accents. In particular, the accents that you guys find to be most difficult to understand. Now, when it comes to accents, you can't just say this one's easy and this one is difficult. It doesn't work like that. It all depends on where you're from and what you're used to, what you're used to hearing.
That makes sense.
I speak English with a modern received pronunciation accent, and lots of people tell me that they find it very clear and easy. But that probably is because my accent is an accent that's commonly taught in schools. You might hear it in films and TV shows quite a lot. One of the most important things that you can do if you want to improve your comprehension and improve your English listening skills is to familiarize yourself with as many accents as possible. And this is such a fun task. As a starting point, I thought it would be really fun to identify some of the accents that learners of English commonly find hard to understand so that you can focus on familiarizing yourself with them even more. In order to do this, I created a survey. This is just for fun. It's not scientific, but I think it gives quite a good indication. I took 10 celebrities who speak 10 of my favourite accents, and I took little clips of them speaking. I then asked my students on my email list to tell me on a scale of 0 to 10 how easy they found it to understand that little bit of speech. I averaged the scores, I've put them in order, and I'm really excited to show you the results. To make this even more interesting, I will play each clip twice. Once without subtitles, and again with subtitles, so that you can test your own understanding of each accent clip. Obviously, there will be many variables: the speed at which the person's speaking, the setting in which they're speaking, whether it's formal or informal, but hopefully it will give you a good idea. As always, there is a PDF that goes with today's lesson. It's got all of the information that I shared today, plus links to the full clips and some extra bits as well. If you'd like to download that, just click on the link in the description box. You enter your name and your email address, you sign up to my mailing list, and then immediately the PDF will arrive in your inbox. And then every week after that, you will automatically receive my lesson PDFs.
Let's move on.
You'll also receive all of my news, updates and offers, and the opportunity to participate in any future surveys. You don't want to miss out on that. Important research. We have 10 accents, and the person who is ranked at number 10, i.e. the easiest to understand according to my students, is Queen Elizabeth II, of course. It helps a lot that she speaks very slowly, and this was a formal broadcast. Let's have a listen.
King James may not have anticipated quite how important sport and games were to become in promoting harmony and common interests. But from the scriptures in the Bible which bears his name, we know that nothing is more satisfying than the feeling of belonging to a group who are dedicated to helping each other.
I understood every word.
And now let's listen one more time with subtitles on screen so you can check how much of it you understand.
King James may not have anticipated.
I don't think we need this. I'm going to fast forward.
So the Queen speaks the Queen's English. She speaks with a received pronunciation accent on the very top.
Received pronunciation accent.
Now, this is an accent that is traditionally regarded as the standard for British English.
Standard.
But things are changing. Originally, this accent was called public school pronunciation. And public school actually means private school. So an independent school in the UK. State school is education paid for by the government. Public or private school, you pay for yourself.
Yeah, in the States, private school means it's the individual pays for it. And public school means the government pays for it.
That was traditionally learned. Or private school, you pay for yourself. So this is an accent that was traditionally learnt. And And it's quite interesting because it doesn't have a specific geographical location. It was originally spoken in public schools all across the British Isles. It was kind of a sign of class. A couple of decades ago, the majority of what you would hear on the radio and on the television would be received pronunciation. But now that is not the case, and rightly so.
Really?
Let's move on to number 9. And this is a very attractive to me celebrity.
Oh.
It is Jason Statham speaking in his gorgeous Cockney accent. I know a lot of you are huge fans of the Cockney accent. Let's have a listen.
And you have to accept that. I mean, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be moaning because we're hired actors. You come in, you get paid, shut your mouth, do your work and go home. It should be a little bit of that, but sometimes you want to try and get involved and you try and collaborate and get things done.
Can we just have a moment of appreciation for men rocking bald heads?
I understood every word. I don't know why she has to share her sexual preferences.
Absolutely love them. Right, let's listen again with subtitles and see how much you understand.
I don't need the
And
subtitles.
you have to accept that. I mean, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be
At the end of the day, shouldn't be moaning, we're hired actors.
You come in,
you get paid, shut your mouth, you do your work, and you go home.
It should be a little bit
It
of that.
should be a little bit of that, but sometimes you want to try and get involved. And you try and collaborate and get things done.
And get things done.
Okay, adore this accent. It originates from the East End of London. Supposedly, you were only a true Cockney if you were born within earshot of Bow bells. Within earshot means within listening distance, within hearing distance. And Bow bells are the bells in a church, a historic East London church.
Okay.
Now, the East End of London is changing. And a lot of the people who were born there or who grew up there are moving further out to Essex. So it was very interesting to me to see that number 8 was the Essex accent. So let's play a clip of that. We have a celebrity called Gemma Collins, who I personally adore.
Gemma
She is
Collins.
so sassy, so
Sassy.
entertaining. If I ever feel sad,
Sassy.
I look at her top moments on YouTube because, what character. She's just completely herself.
I'm sold.
I have become one of the biggest reality stars in Britain. I am a global icon. It's weird, but that's the GC, and that's what I do. I make great TV. I provide you with entertainment, and I kind of explain it to people. It's like Paul O'Grady and Lily Savage. You know, it's how I make my money.
Yeah, to me that sounds even more Cockney than Cockney. I think I recognize her. I think she was on a TikTok that I saw where she was screaming that she's claustrophobic. Is that the same person?
I mean, she's so confident, isn't she? I loved the guy, Eamon Holmes' face, just as she was praising herself. Brilliant. Let's listen again with subtitles.
I have become one of the biggest reality stars in Britain. I am a global icon.
It's weird, but that's the GC.
And that's what I do.
And that's what I do. I make great TV. I provide you with entertainment.
And I kind of explain it to people.
It's like Paul O'Grady and Lily Savage. It's how I make my money.
Okay, so the Essex accent is found in and around Essex. A lot of people from the East End, originally Cockney, did move to Essex or are continuing to move to Essex. It is like a mixture of the estuary accent and the Cockney accent. It's become incredibly popular over the past decade due to a TV show called The Only Way is Essex. It's a reality TV show that follows young people in Essex, very glamorous people, and Gemma was one of them, and her career has just exploded.
Good for her.
Okay, moving on to number 7. We're going to another country. We're not in England anymore. We are in Wales, and it is the Cardiff accent as spoken by Charlotte Church.
Charlotte Church.
Opera singer.
I thought she was American.
suppose in terms of what the film Under Milk Woods is such an incredible play. Dylan Thomas's writing is so unusual. Yeah, and I'm not really, I'm quite a newbie to acting. I've done bits and bobs in the past.
She sounds Irish to me.
Very interesting there. Can you hear her say unusual? Well, I'd say unusual.
Unusual.
So it's almost like she's adding in an extra syllable
Unusual.
there. And she also said incredible.
Incredible.
An R sound that I struggle
Incredible.
to do. It's like thing. It's like a rolling R
Incredible.
sound. I love listening to the Welsh accents. They're very melodious to me. Let's listen again with subtitles.
Well, I suppose
in terms of
what the film
is under
Milkwood
it's such an incredible play.
Dylan Thomas's
Dylan Thomas's writing is so unusual.
Yeah, and I'm not really. I'm quite a newbie to acting. I've done bits and bobs in the past.
Bits and bobs.
If you are interested in learning a little bit more about the Welsh accents, then I highly recommend a comedy called Gavin and Stacey. It actually goes quite well with this video because it shows an Essex family and a Welsh family joining because the son and the daughter are getting married. Hilarious.
Oh, that's a good idea for a
fabulous
show.
Welsh accents in there.
Fish out of
Let's
water.
move on to number
Cultures
6.
collide.
It's the Yorkshire accent
Yorkshire.
as spoken by Louis Tomlinson from One Direction.
Basically, right, I mean, my name is Louis, but I didn't love it when I was younger. Like, once I was old enough, I don't know why, I just didn't really love it. So I got known as Lewis. All my friends from home call me Lewis. And then I get there, it's close enough, sorry. And then I get there on my first day at the X Factor with Simon and, you know what I mean, all the judges, and he called me Louis.
So for me, one of the most distinctive things about his accent is that he says me instead of my name instead of my name. That's really distinctive to me. Where I'd say love, he says love.
Love.
I didn't love it.
I didn't
But for
love
me, it's
love
I
it.
didn't love it. I find this accent
didn't love
very
me name.
warm. Love. Yeah, it's just lovely, isn't it? Let's listen again, but with subtitles so you can see how much you understood.
Basically, right,
I mean, my name is Louis, but I didn't love it when I was younger. Once I was old enough, I don't know why, I just didn't really love it. So I got known as Lewis. All my friends from home call me Louis.
And then I get there.
And then I get there.
And then I get there on my first day at the X Factor with Simon and, you know what I mean, all the judges, and he called me Louis.
Did you also hear him not pronounce the H in home? He said I would say home, from
Yeah, that was hard.
I'm not sure if that's quite right. I'll need a bit of help with my Yorkshire accent. Another thing I noticed, he said I were instead of I was when I were younger. When I was younger is what I'd say. That's part of his dialect. Okay, number 5. So this is sort of mid-range in difficulty for you. It's the Brummie accent, which is the accent from Birmingham, and we have Adrian Chiles speaking it.
I remember from another video that I think she did, she mentioned that Ozzy Osbourne has a Birmingham accent, and I can barely understand him.
So anyway, look, actually, when they're trying to get me to come on here, they give a list of all the brilliant people you've had on in the past. That has the opposite effect on me. I say, you know, Richard E. Grant and stuff. Why would anybody be interested? So anyway, I suppose that's my sort of...
You were just the best I could get. Like those.
Well, many a true word said.
Yeah.
There was a little bit in there that I could not understand.
So Adrian doesn't actually have the strongest Brummie accent that I've ever heard. But if you find him hard to understand, he is speaking quite quickly here.
Yeah.
So if you're managing to understand him, you're doing a really good job.
I could.
Let's listen again with subtitles.
So anyway, look, actually, when they're trying to get me to come on here, they give a list of all the brilliant people you've had on in the past. That has the opposite effect on me. I say, you know, Richard E. Grant and stuff. Why would anybody be interested? So anyway, I suppose that's my sort of...
You were just the best I could get. Like those.
Now I hear it.
Many
Okay,
a true
yeah,
word
yeah.
said.
Also, how awesome is that sign language interpreter? She was really conveying the comedy quite well. Now, as lovely as this accent may sound to you, this is actually one of the British accents that faces the most discrimination within the country. There is another one that I'll talk about as well. When people run opinion polls, it often comes up as one of the most disfavoured. But very interestingly, when they run similar opinion polls to overseas visitors, so non-native English speakers, the Brummie accent seems to do quite well. They find it very melodious. This implies that it does badly in polls because of prejudice rather than a genuine dislike of the sound of it.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I just find it hard to understand.
I'd be interested to know your thoughts and to know if there are any accents in your country that you think are kind of unfairly regarded. I know that living in Spain, I learned Spanish with an Andalusian accent. And I have definitely been on the receiving end of criticism. Some of it I take as well-meaning. A lot of it comes from people from other countries who are saying, this sort of accent's ugly, you should learn my accent. But it can be quite hurtful, to be honest, because that's the accent I speak with now. Let's move on to the next one. You've rated this as number 4. And I know I shouldn't have favourites, but I think I can. This is my favourite. I absolutely love the way this accent sounds, and I love the person who has this accent. It is Nadine Coyle from Girls Aloud. It's just a blessing on the ears. It really is. She speaks with a Derry accent. Have a listen.
Derry.
I enjoy cooking, baking and stuff, working with flour and making sweet things I'm not so used to, more savoury, chopping, kind of, when you just zone out, you put your music on and you just chop, just have loads of stuff.
I think I could understand her, but the way she said flour, I did not recognize that as a word.
Does anyone else want to just chop and cook with flour with her? It's just lovely. See if you can notice that where I would say flour, she says something more like flyer.
Yeah.
And she also says meckin instead of making, as I would say it. Chopping, chopping.
Chopping.
Really, really distinct differences. Let's listen again with subtitles.
I enjoy cooking, baking and stuff, working with flour and making sweet things I'm not so used to, more savoury, chopping, kind of, when you just zone out, you put your music on
Zone
and you
out.
just chop, just have loads of stuff.
Lovely.
Wow.
Truly lovely. Love it.
I've heard Irish accents before, but that is like another thing.
Lovely. Truly lovely. Love it. Let's move on to number 3. We have another Girls Aloud member. So you voted these two quite high up on the difficulty scale. Cheryl speaks with a Geordie accent, which you'll find in the city of Newcastle and the surrounding areas. Let's have a listen.
We did 3 hours the night before, and those girls are... So there's a girl out there called Charm, who I used when I did my own solo tour.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely adore her. I love working with her. And we did 3 hours with those girls, and those girls were sick.
Yeah.
So I was just watching them the whole time, like, I want to do it like her.
I understood most of it. There's just maybe one sentence that I couldn't get.
She's so softly spoken, isn't she? She speaks really, really gently. Let's listen again with subtitles, and then I've got something to say about this accent.
We did 3 hours the night before, and those girls are... So there's a girl out there called Charm, who I used when I did my own solo tour.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely adore her. I love working with her. And we did 3 hours with those girls, and those girls were sick.
Yeah.
So I was just watching them the whole time, like, I want to do it like her.
Did you hear me use the word sick? Sick. I think I've mentioned it in a video recently. It's a slang word for cool. I remember finding it very confusing as a child because I thought it meant bad, but that's really cool.
Yeah. Is that an American thing? Because people say that here all the time. That is sick. Sick.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit more about accent discrimination here because Cheryl, I remember she was in the news quite a lot. I'd say around 10 years ago. She was a judge on the X Factor, a singing talent competition in the UK, and she was invited over to the US to be a judge on the US version. And then she was quickly fired from it.
Couldn't understand
supposedly, and apparently it was due to the producers being worried that her accent would be difficult to understand. Now, I don't know if this was just
I could see that happening.
Generate publicity,
Sure.
but it sounded pretty harsh. I
probably
remember feeling
real.
really bad for her at the time. I feel that even if her accent was kind of new to viewers of the X Factor in the US, they would have gotten used to it quite quickly. So I don't know if I agree with that decision. But I imagine that it was just for publicity. Maybe this was all decided before. Right, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is a comedian that I'm very fond of. He's called Frankie Boyle. He tells the most outrageous jokes.
I've heard of him.
He pushes the boundaries and oversteps them quite frequently. But he speaks with a Glaswegian accent from Glasgow in Scotland. Let's have a listen.
My cousins, when I was growing up in Ireland, their dad was like a fisherman, like on a trawler in Ireland, and he would go away for 2 weeks at a time. And I remember thinking that's the worst thing you could possibly imagine, you know, is that your dad's going to just disappear for 2 weeks. And now it's like, you know, 2 months would be quite standard on a tour.
very, very distinctive.
I understood
to it.
that.
I'm not even going to try to mimic it. This, for me, is one of the hardest accents for me to mimic. One thing I find quite distinctive is that where I would say is, they say as, or instead of kind, for me, they say kind. Let's have a listen again with subtitles, see how much you picked up.
My cousins, when I was growing up in Ireland, their dad was like a fisherman, on a trawler in Ireland. And he would go away for 2 weeks at a time. And I remember thinking that's the worst thing you could possibly imagine, you know, is that your dad's going to just disappear for 2 weeks. And now it's like, you know, 2 months would be quite standard on a tour.
And the last accent, the accent that you voted as hardest to understand. In all fairness, I don't think I gave you the easiest clip. He's speaking very quickly, but his name's John Bishop and he speaks with a Scouse accent. And there's been a lot of press recently of people who speak with a Scouse accent coming out and talking about the discrimination they've faced. Let's have a listen to the comedian John Bishop speaking with his Scouse accent. Have a listen to those distinctive features.
Yeah, I've wrote about them in the book, but I've called them Generation Z because I've given them a full title because I'm old enough to call things by the full title rather than yourself who's gone Gen Z.
I couldn't understand the beginning, but once I realized that it's the Beatles accent, I can kind of latch onto it and hear it.
Self who's gone Gen Z.
Yeah, that's also the only clip with music in the background as well, so I'll bear that in mind for next time to make sure it's as fair as possible. However, it is a very distinctive accent. When he says but I, he almost says bara. It's very hard for me to reproduce. He almost rolls his R sounds. Another thing I notice is when they say things like school or cool, they tend to say skewel or kiwil, almost adding in an extra syllable.
I feel like sometimes you would hear John Lennon do that as a joke.
Yeah, I've wrote about them in the book, but I've called them Generation Z because I've given them a full title because I'm old enough to call things by the full title rather than yourself who's gone Gen Z.
Right, that is the end of today's video. Those were the 10 accents that you helped me rank from easiest to understand to hardest to understand.
Interesting. The accent that sounded the most foreign to me was the Derry accent. I think it's because they have the hard R's, but when she says a word like flower, 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 I can't, it's like there's not just one shift. It's not just, it's confusing. I can't explain why it sounds strange to me. It just does. Anyway, really interesting video. I'm continually surprised at how different the accents can be in such a relatively small area.
Thank you all for recommending. Thank you all for watching. And I'll see you all next time. Later.